Hey guys, this is Red and Blue with only one game this week against Marseille this Sunday. It gives me a little bit of time to talk about other teams within the PSG club. And this time I wanted to talk about our youngster, our U19, who just came out victorious of a big Youth League game yesterday. And so, let's talk about this and let's talk about our future PSG stars, if you will. So, first things first. Yesterday, PSG played at home against Minsk in the Youth League in a round of 32, I believe. And they came out victorious 4-0, a really dominant win. And yeah, a squad that's really coming together. I think even in Youth League and in the national leagues. The kids are doing quite well. There's good performances. There's really talents which are starting to emerge, who are looking very, very exciting. And also there were a couple of mercato moves as well around our youngsters during the January window. And so yeah, just wanted to cover those as well. In terms of the game against Minsk, 4-0, one player who's really stealing the spotlight on this one is Pierre Mounguengue, who's our forward on number 9. He scored 2 goals and got fouled for a penalty for the third one. So really, really dominant performance. And I think that's very much in line with this season so far. He's played 22 games totally, and he scored already 16 goals and 7 assists in 22 games. So very, very solid season so far. It's his first year with our U19 as well. So quite impressive at this level. And even in Youth League, which is kind of the top level for U19, and really where they face the toughest opposition for their age group, is already, I think, scored 6 goals. So yeah, really strong performances. A player who's starting to show what he's made of. It's still obviously very, very early for the player, and he's still got a long road ahead of him, if you will. Youth League, he's played 6 games in Youth League, 4 goals, 4 assists. So super impressive stats, and he's getting noticed because a lot of people have been commenting on the content of his game and how good he's been getting. And apparently PSG is preparing a professional contract for him. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in the not too distant future start training on occasions with the pro squad, and maybe start featuring in the squad with Luis Enrique. Obviously now we've got right now, and I'll knock on every bit of wood I've got around me, we've got a bit less injury problems, but at the same time, great profiles up front are always interesting for PSG, and so if this one is continues along the same line, he could be getting into the pro squad earlier than expected. So Pierre Mounguengue, first one to remember the name. Second player who did really well in this Minsk game is Aymen Assab. Not to be convinced with Khalil Ayari, who I'll talk about later. Aymen Assab is an attacking midfielder, typically plays a sort of number 10, number 8. Very, very strong as well, and he's been doing really well this season too. He's another one of really the shining star of this PSG U19 team. And at 17-year-old, he's early, and yeah, he's been doing well. He's played 23 games, 12 goals, 9 assists. So same kind of really brilliant stats. And in Youth League, 6 games, 3 goals, 3 assists. In this game, he scores the penalties that Mounguengue provokes. So he gets a goal and he gets an assist on one of the Mounguengue goals as well. So strong performance for him. He's been kind of the main guy when it comes to creating within this PSG U19 team. Really where things are happening. I think he's won the captain armband a couple of times as well. So very, very important player within this squad, and one who's been I think like he's been on the radar screen. Like I know I've heard his name like even last season, but I think this season is really growing and improving and really demonstrating what he can do. Yeah, he's been with the U19 squad for like it's his second season with the U19 squad. So yeah, a player who's interesting. Also, like same thing there. He's already got a contract in place, but like wouldn't be surprised to see him feature with the pro squad at least for training. I think he's done training a few times. I don't think he's been part of the group for any pro games. He might have once or twice. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I know he hasn't played with the pros yet, but he's really, really close to it. And he's a talent that is maturing quite nicely. I think in terms of, he was always the kind of player who was technically gifted, but I think in terms of like his intelligence and his like impact on the game, he's been a lot more solid and a lot more consistent this season. And I think you can see like the stat output is really like telling the story of a player who's really getting comfortable at that level and really showing the kind of impact that you would want to see from a player before thinking of moving him on to the next level. So really great to see. Hopefully he can keep going like this. But yeah, a really interesting profile and one that we could also see with the squad. Third name I wanted to talk about in terms of this PSG Minsk game, Aymen Assab was kind of a surprise in the starting 11, playing as a midfielder, in this case, like more as a sort of like number 6 a la Vitinha. I've seen comments calling him a Vitinha regen, so it's just to give you a sense. Really interesting player. He's been like, I think it's his first season with the U19, and he's been doing okay this season. Really like doing a lot of progress, but maybe like starting at a lower point than the other two that I've mentioned. But technically, from what I've seen, from the little highlights and little videos that I've seen, a really, really, really gifted player who can like dribble, who can pass, who's got the vision of the game. So really interesting to see. In terms of improvements, he's still a little bit naive, I would say. So he still needs to improve in terms of his decision making, and not taking too many risks, not trying to dribble too many players. It's it's a normal like stage of development for youngsters. Like when they come in early and they're still young, they think they can take on anyone. So they need to learn to be more organized and a little bit more straightforward with the ball. But he did extremely well in this youth league game, and yeah, he's been showing improvement throughout the season. So he's like maybe a little bit further away from making it anywhere close to the pros. But Aymen Assab, a name to keep in a corner of your mind, because I wouldn't be surprised. I think if probably next season, you could see him like take a leading role with the U19 and start featuring in some training session with the pros, depending on what we need in this area. So those are like the 3 players that I wanted to talk about: Aymen Ayari, Pierre Mounguengue, and Aymen Assab. And then there's 2 players who I wanted to mention in terms of transfers, because I think a couple of days ago, PSG confirmed that they signed for good a player that we had on loan from Club Tunisien, who's Khalil Ayari, not related to the other one, a different Ayari, who came this summer, on a loan with an option to buy. He was talked about, and I remember I did a video at this point. He was talked very, very, very highly about at that point. He came into the club as a youngster with a huge potential, and like we've seen some good stuff from him, we've seen some not so good stuff from him. Ultimately, like PSG decided to convert and pay the clause to get him on board permanently. He hasn't been featuring with the pro squad yet. He's a bit older. He's already like 2021, so he's like slightly at a higher level than the U19. Typically plays as a right offensive midfielder / winger. but with a tendency to cut inside, a very like heavy tendency towards dribbling, and really like, you know, trying to show off his skills. Is extremely gifted technically. So he's dribbling, like you can go see highlights. It's already at a really, really high level, but he's still developing, and I think that's where like the PSG part is doing him some good. He's still developing in terms of intelligence of playing, and you know, like learning to pass the ball when he needs to pass the ball, of not taking on too many opponents on his own, of, you know, being a little bit more unpredictable in terms of what he's going to be doing, of cutting inside or going wide, of being able to pass and versus dribble. Not, yeah, like learning to do different things really. But the playing intelligence is really like the main one that he's working on improving. He's getting a little bit better. He still has a road ahead of him. At this point, it kind of precludes him from featuring with the pro, because you cannot have with the pro a player who's going to be playing as a solo artist a little bit. It's just not the philosophy that we've got on the team. And to be frank, even if his technicals are really impressive, he's still like, he's not Eddy Doué, he's not Ousmane Dembele, he's not like at that level yet. So it's not like they are enough to carry him to the next level either. He needs as well to improve a little bit in terms of physical, and specifically in terms of acceleration, because, you know, it's nice to dribble, but if you can't like run past the opponents once you've dribbled past him and the opponent can come back on you, then you've essentially accomplished nothing. And sometimes that's a little bit of where he is. And if you were to play with the pros, I would definitely be holding him back. So promising player for sure. Still holding on to what I said when he came in the summer. But yeah, he's got some work ahead of him. He's showing promise, and you know, we've got to recognize as well that for those youngsters, the path is not always like the same, and it's not always linear. And so, you know, a player who's 20 years old, 21 years old, who still has some stuff to develop, it's completely natural. It can happen. We've seen examples of players who make it to the top level at a later age. It's not the most typical way of doing it, but for a player who's coming, you know, from Tunisia, with a different kind of a career so far, yeah, it's to be expected. So we'll give him time, and we'll just keep an eye on him. And the good thing is that at this point, the buying clause was very low. I think it was like 1 point something million. So yeah, we'll be making our money back anyway. We're going to be making money anyway, even if like we want to sell him in a year, because it's not like he's not really like getting to that next phase. He's already at a level where like he could go on to a League 2 club, or like, you know, some other leagues like a Swiss league or something like this, and like have a career at a lower stage. So not worried about that. Other player who's actually also in this kind of situation, who left the club this winter, is Eddy Doué, who you might remember as well for a highlights video that circulated around the games that he played against Chelsea U19, which he absolutely dominated. And so like that video got everyone super, super excited about the player. And I think, granted, like he was showing a lot of qualities within PSG, but he was exactly the same kind of situation as Khalil Ayari, which is like a player who's a little bit older, but still is lacking in terms of like key elements of the game that would allow him to make it to the next level, and was actually very similar in terms of game intelligence and understanding what goes on the pitch, and not trying to do too much on his own. So sometimes things would work for him, and then you'd get highlights video and it look super impressive, but sometimes it doesn't work as well. So what he's decided, he moved to a team, I don't remember the name of it, but like within the Portugal top tier. And I think, look, the project that they have for him is for him to start featuring in the team, to start like to keep improving on his game, but with the promise of more game time at the first team level than he would have gotten from PSG. And I've seen him in the media saying that for him it's a good balance, that he wants to be playing more, that he wants to have more gaming time, and that he realizes that in PSG there's just too many people ahead of him, and he needs that. And at the same time, Portugal is a good environment for him because he knows that it's a league and clubs that know how to develop youngster. And so hopefully they can keep developing him and giving him like those last elements that he needs to polish his game. So a player who leaves the club. He's only been in PSG for about 6 months. I think he joined last summer, so it's a pretty quick one. And hopefully, he'll go on to great things in his career. I think on this one, we let him go on a free with some sort of like percentage on future fee, which is typically what we do with players. Like we know we're not going to be able to do much more with in PSG. So we'll keep an eye on him as well. Wish him all the best, and hopefully he can, live up to his cousins, whether that's Desiree or even Eddy Doué of Strasbourg that we've seen. Both of them doing very well in their pro career, and so hopefully it can be the same. So anyway, this is kind of the updates that I had for you on the U19. I'll be keeping an eye out. We don't know yet who we'll be facing in the next round of the Youth League. It is going to be interesting, though, because this competition is pretty wide open. The teams that finished top of the group phase, Chelsea, barely got out of that round and had to get a win on penalty versus PSV, like 7-6 on penalty. Barca got eliminated. A few big teams got eliminated. So there's still a few favorites, but it's quite open. And I think at that level, it's always a question mark of when players get good enough, they get called up with the pros. So it's always a question of which players are available. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye out. In terms of the domestic league, currently we sit fourth with a game on hand, which could take us to the third spot. And we're playing number 1 and number 2 in the league in the next 2 weeks. So the next 2 weeks are going to be telling us a lot in terms of how far we can go domestically. But we're already in a pretty decent position in the league. So anyway, this is what I had for you guys on the U19. Let me know what you think of those players. Have you heard of them? Are they getting you excited? Pierre Mounguengue, I'm thinking I'm probably going to do a video on him specifically relatively soon because the name keeps popping up. And like I said, I really wouldn't be surprised to see him start featuring with the first squad, at least for training relatively soon. So let me know if that's something that would be of interest. And as always, if you've made it this far, please drop a like. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Hit the bell to get notified and all of those things. And don't forget, even with our youngsters, ici c'est pareil!